So, how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons, and for how long have you been playing as Dungeon Master in these games?
Okay, I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, when I first got the game, I think I was around like 8 or 9. I actually got it as a birthday present, and this was back in the time when they actually used to have commercials for Dungeons and Dragons on TV and on. I always thought it was cool, so I got the books. Could never find anyone to teach me. So eventually I taught myself, and I didn't really start playing it till maybe fifth grade, I believe it was. As far as Dungeon Mastering, I've been doing it off and on for about the same length of time.
So, what was your first experience as playing as a Dungeon Master like?
My first experience playing with a Dungeon Master was with my longtime childhood friends, Chris and Mike. Still in contact with Mike, great guy. And Chris had run us in we used to have pre-purchased games, and Chris had run a couple. And eventually I decided to run my own series, kind of inspired by the Forgotten Realms and a book I had just got done reading one summer called The Last Magician. So I created this, played within the Forgotten Realms universe. I basically created this whole mythos over these magicians, and it just became this big epic storyline. And just the idea of being able to create your own stories with your friends and your friends interacting with the story was really great to me.
Have you ever had an experience in being a DM that sort of best exemplifies why Dungeons and Dragons in the game is the complete opposite of the myths, the negative myths that get portrayed about Dungeons and Dragons?
As an example?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the negative examples are you referring to specifically?
Negative examples of playing the game is devil worship and
The best example I could give you is when actually comes from one of my friends when they're playing, who were very Catholic school people. They went to Catholic school, and they gave it to their nun. And as I went to the book, there's nothing wrong with this book, here you go. So as far as the idea of devil worship goes, even when a nun goes to it, there's nothing wrong with this book. I've read it cover to cover. It's all propaganda and BS how people go off on it. Now, as far as some of the other things, like it causes like mental disorders and other stuff, unfortunately, when you have anyone with a mental disorder, sadly, depending on what the medium is, they can sometimes take things too far. And with Dungeons and Dragons, you have a game that is pure imagination, and people, unfortunately, can get lost in that, no matter mental disorder or not. We have a time when people are addicted to video games, and they can get lost in those too, or just lost in work.
So, how has playing Dungeons and Dragons, and for that matter, the sort of work and experience and everything that involves being a dungeon master, do you felt it's helped you in your career fields?
In my career field, yes, and yeah, actually it has, because it has helped me with being tolerant of other people's opinions, other people's decisions. Because as a dungeon master, you have to understand it's a cooperative thing. Now, for me personally, it's actually helped a lot with my education. Because once I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, my reading skills improved, my math skills improved. I gained a love of history and mythology, and it has expanded my mind that way. It's had me look at things from different perspectives. So it's given me a objectivity and a way to think of things out of the box and just not from one perspective.
Do you have any final words for why you think people should get into Dungeons and Dragons?
Pure and simple, because of friendship, because it's a way to associate and with your friends and hang out with your friends in a completely unique way that you can't get from any other experience. It's not a game that you can really. You play video games, but you're not really playing with them. You're almost playing against them. But like with Dungeons and Dragons, it's helping with your social skills. It's actually, you're interacting with people on a completely creative level that you rarely get, except if you're maybe a writer speaking to his editors and production staff, or like directors speaking with their actors. It's like a completely different way of communicating with people, and one person can come up with a great idea, but when you get a whole bunch of people together and they're all working on this idea, this story, you can build something really amazing at the end.